Good evening. Will the meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission for Wednesday, February 27, 2019, please come to order? For the benefit of those who may not have participated in Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, our procedures are as follows. 1, the Secretary will read the legal call of the meeting as published in local newspapers. 2, the applicant will be invited to come forward and present the case, explaining to the Commission and others present what is being requested of this property. Comments of town agencies will be read for each application if there are any. There will be clarifying questions from the Commissioners. 3, there will then be an opportunity for clarifying questions from the audience. First, those who wish to support the application may come forward, and second, those who oppose the application will then be invited to come forward. As this is a public meeting, it must be recorded. It is necessary for speakers to identify themselves, state their name and address before addressing the Commission. 4, the applicant is then free to leave or remain for the balance of the public hearing and regular meeting, at which time the Commission will try to reach a decision on each application. Each applicant will be notified in writing as to the decision of this Commission and has the right to appeal to the Superior Court if desired. 5 decisions of this meeting are available the day after the meeting by calling the Planning and Zoning Office, 453-8039, after 9 a.m. Seated this evening are the following members: Sean Cosgrove, Matt Yerzinski, Richard Wallace. I am Philip Johnson, Frank DeAndrea. We have a new member, Michael Basso, Jason Marchi, and Scott Edmond. So for this evening, let's see, I guess Mike will be an alternate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and no, 6 and 7, right? You 7, correct? Great, good. Staff present: George Kroll, Town Planner; Aaron Manick, Zoning Enforcement Officer. The videographer is Peter Schultze, and the Secretary will now read the legal notice.
Just before going, because we have not a typo, because last week's meeting was postponed to tonight. It reads as February 20th on the legal notice. Notice is hereby given that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing on February 20th, 2019 at 7:30 p.m., location being the Nathaniel B. Green Community Center, 32 Church Street, Guilford, Connecticut, in the Monunketuck Room on the second floor for the following purposes. Robert Mangino, Boston Post Road, map 84, lots 11-1, 11-2, and 11-4. Request for zoning map change from R5 to TS2. James and Joyce Glass, 2 Guilford Point Drive, map 27, lot 7, zone R3. Coastal area management for installation of a 20-foot by 33-foot in-ground pool and spa. Verback's property, known as Metro Pooch, 201 Soundview Road, map 42, lot 118-4, 5, and 6. Coastal area management site plan and special permit for construction of a 9,692 square foot pet boarding facility with appurtenant parking and on-site sewage disposal systems. Mark Lazarus, 162 Daniel Avenue, map 10, lot 164, zone R2, coastal area management for tear-down rebuild of a house on subject property. Copies of these applications are available for inspection in the office of the Planning and Zoning Commission, Town Hall South, 50 Boston Street, Guilford, Connecticut. At this hearing, persons may attend and be heard, and written communication will be received. Dated at Guilford, Connecticut, this 29th day of January 2019. Philip Johnson, Chairman.
Thank you very much. First item on the agenda is the proposed amendment to zone code RE lots without required frontage. It's my understanding that we'd like some more time to clarify this. So can someone make a motion to continue this to our March 6th meeting?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next item is
Mr.
Robert
Chairman,
Mangino.
for the benefit of Mike, who's the alternate in tonight's meeting, alternates are allowed to participate in the public hearing. You can ask questions during the public hearing. During deliberations on any item, assuming all 7 members are going to be voting, you cannot participate in the discussion during deliberations. But if any one of the members is not participating in the discussion, then you would be appointed by the chairman to fill in, but to be seated. But you can participate in the public hearing, ask questions, and so forth.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is Robert Mangino, Boston Post Road, map 84, lots 11-1, 11-2, and 11-4, request for zoning map change from R5 to TS2.
For the record, my name is Robert Mangino. I'm an architect licensed to practice in Connecticut. I'm the applicant representing the owner, which is Harold Square LLC. There's an existing piece of property on the Boston Post Road. We've outlined the overall parcel that we're here. It's on the corner of, there's New England Road, building here, and then this is our parcel here. Right now, there's the zone line goes back 200 feet. It's always been 200 feet along a lot of the Boston Post Road. My client would like, we used to have now the zone line reset to the rear of his property. So in essence, the full parcel would be a TS2 zone. Right now, the rear portion is RS2. We really can't do anything. There's not sufficient land for the RS2, for the R zone here, R5 zone. Our piece of property with TS2 zone, we're not able to use any of the residential. So right now we have 3 existing little houses sitting on the property. I'd like to do a commercial project which is both in scale with the other buildings along the Boston Post Road. There's certain uses in the TS2 zone which make no sense for our property. So if we do receive an approval to use our full property as a TS2 zone, we're going into the design phase of what makes design sense in terms of scale, use on the property, parking, septic system. We do all that analyzation, and hopefully then we will meet with staff, develop a proper use of that property within the TS2 zone so it's compatible with the planned development along the Route 1 in Guilford, and it gives my client the ability to use the whole property and not just whatever he has and not use the rear. We know that there's residential zones around there. Again, that's why you have, I think it's a 30-foot buffer requirement between any TS2 zone and residential zones. Of course, we maintain that, provide a buffer and comfort level between our property and the residential property. So here, hopefully to say, let's be able to use this property as one zone piece of property, go to phase 2 and work with staff and do a commercial project that fits the scale and make some economic and design sense on that property. So here to see if it makes sense to move that zone line to the rear and then work with the town and develop the property.
So we had an issue a year or so ago with commercial operations in a residential zone. We were under the impression at the time that it was all commercial. So I find myself to be very sensitive to encroachment of commercial activities on abutting neighbors. I guess what I'm saying is, you're talking about this potential development and asking us to approve a zone change without really knowing what your full plan is. And I guess my question for you is, are we kind of putting the cart before the horse?
Well, yes and no. If this was, again, that's why, again, within your P&Z regulations, you define particular uses, and not all uses, like I said, will fit this piece of property. Number 2, you always have the requirement of buffer requirements between any commercial and any residential zone. And I think in this area, I think it's 30 feet, which we certainly maintain. And due to the property, until we say we'll do some soil testing to find out the capability of septic system, the particular use, and scale, we'd like to be able to do phase 2, which is develop a piece of property. If we don't know that we have the right or the ability to do that, and then we'd like to be able to do some testing, it's obvious that whatever construction will be towards Boston Post Road section, this is the, we call it the existing residential. There may be some activity there, but the main thrust of any commercial will be on the Boston Post Road side. On the particular use, I just know on the use list now, there's some that make no sense there now. So we can say we don't have to know those until I actually sit down and say I can put a couple of buildings here, I can park here, I have my septic here.
You could also do that under these conditions are met, if it were to be approved down the road, here's what we could put in. If not, here's what we're left with.
I understand
Okay.
that. But the client just sort of like to say, we'd like to be able to know we can, at least be able to go in that direction, because then we can do, again, we would simply go to phase 2, which is hire the site engineers to do some testing, do some drainage, shoot some topo, be able to design septic systems there, and then we do all that, and then we come back and say, well, you really don't have the right, because we're not going to approve a TS2 zone. So I'd like to be able to have, at least have a comfort level that our solutions would work with staff, that would make the approval of what we do in phase 2, something that makes sense, that would be approvable. There's no guarantee of
You could do the
approval.
testing right now, though, couldn't you?
Yes, but then we have to, one of the things we'd like to know is that we can use the property. So the question is, does it make sense? Because I know I spoke to, I believe, one of the neighbors, said, what are you doing here? I said, we're going to do that second phase, but obviously when we do a second phase, we call it the design, we have to submit preliminary designs to the staff, we meet with the neighbors, make sure they're in comfort level with what we're doing, so there's no encroachment in terms of sound, environmental issues, and good planning. So we would, my client would like to do it knowing that he has a TS2 piece of property. So we're here to come before you and say, if you do grant the TS2, fine, we have the uses, but I think some uses take a special permit, some take a special exception, some are permitted by right, so it's obvious we have to work within those limits, the P&Z requirements of coverage, setbacks, et cetera, buffer strips, and we do that again as the second phase, knowing we have the ability to use that property. So that's why we're here. We'll say first, to say we'd like to be able to use and design it. It's obvious if we come back and some of them take special exception or special permit approval, you have the right to review that, deny it, take some input. So there's always guidelines to protect, we'll say, the town and the neighbor. If I hopefully explain myself clear enough that we'd like to,
You'd like the approval and then come back with whatever you
yeah,
want.
then we'd like to know that, we have that, then we can do all the studies that would make some sense, and they would say, yes, now we can do it. We meet with, I know we've met with staff before, in the staff meetings, town engineer, the environmental people at the town, and we would give them something that says, you meet the town's plan of development. We're certainly not going to go outside of your plan of development. Makes no sense.
Aaron, do you have a list of approved uses in the TS2?
I have included in your packet.
You have that, yes.
Want me to read her letter first, and you can go through your list, because it's in here.
Okay.
So this is to the Planning and Zoning Commission from Eric Mannix, Zoning Enforcement Officer, dated February 27th, 2019. The subject property, 2393 Boston Post Road, is located just east of the intersection of New England Road and Boston Post Road. It's located to the north of 2405 and 2401 Boston Post Road, and has access through 2405. The zone line splits 2393 Boston Post Road between TS2 to the south and R5 to the north. Robert Mangino, the applicant, is proposing to extend the TS2 zone line into an R5 zone to the boundaries of the property. Originally, a photocopied map with the architect's seal was submitted with the request. Staff requested an A2 survey to accurately show the property boundaries, current improvements in the proposed zone lines. Robert submitted a survey entitled, quote, Record Map Subdivision, Herald Square, end quote, by Russell Waldo, dated revised on September 21st, 1983. Due to the lot configuration of the proposed change in the zone boundary will result in an isolated portion of the R5 zone on the adjacent property to the west. The commission may wish to address the following. 1, what are the plans for the property moving forward? 2, status of a discussion with the adjoining owner regarding moving the zone line onto his property. 3, any questions or concerns of neighbors. And 4, any updates or changes since the 1983 survey subdivision map. Attached, you please find the allowed uses and bulk standards for both the R5 and the TS2 zone. And there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
Just for the record, we received a stamp sealed, I submitted to George Crowe, and Waldo certified that the A2 survey, which was really submitted, there has been no changes. He stamped and sealed it as of, I believe, a week or 2 ago, so the A2 survey stands as a matter of record.
So
I'll leave it
that
at
nothing's
that.
changed since the 1983
drawing.
Yeah, no, yes, nothing has been done.
What
All
about,
those structures are there,
Right.
and nothing new has been added?
Nothing of substance done. And
Okay.
he said, he stands by what he did with as the record. It's obvious, number one. Number two, when we do submit a application, then we'll be addressing the new and the old as part of the filing. So some of the existing may remain, same not, in terms of there's a stone wall, driveway, but they stand by the sealed copy, which we submitted, I believe they submitted 2 weeks ago, which is the original agent survey.
I just have a question, maybe George or Aaron knows, and maybe other than the committee. Have we approved previously residential zonal lines to incorporate a commercial?
There have been previous zoning map amendments along the post road to extend, some of them did bisect properties, and they have been extended to the property lines. This one is somewhat unique in the configuration of that lot. I have a colored copy just so you can kind of see where the existing TS2 zone is. The lot kind of has this little flag here, and then this lot is also split zone, and this rear portion would remain R5 with the TS2 wrapping it. And this red line is showing what the required buffer is to a residential zone.
What's the required buffer on
30
TS2?
feet, on all, 30 feet to a residential zone. So that would be, on all these sides abutting a residential zone, you have a 30-foot setback.
What's the R5 setback requirement? Do we know?
you mean for structures within the?
From structure, it would
Are
be
we
20 feet
increasing or
from the
decreasing the
property
setback, or
line.
is it remaining the same?
The rear, as a rear setback in an R5 zone is here, 50, yeah.
Are you
50
asking,
feet
So we're
from the
decreasing.
rear property line.
So we would be decreasing the setback that's currently in place.
are you asking what is this,
The-
if in the portion of the property that's zoned R5 now could not be developed for any commercial use?
Now,
Right, under the current zoning.
correct.
Okay, so when, if it were rezoned TS2, then the setback requirement would be 30 feet, because it's a zone line.
Right.
It's a 30-foot setback from any commercial development, or any development within the TS2 to the zone line, which would also be the property line.
Right, so, but as in an R5 zone, the setback's 50 feet.
The rear
In a
property,
rear
rear property
setback,
line
yeah.
is 50, and the side property line is 20 in a residential zone.
So we'd increase it by 10
Or
on the sides
and decrease it by
back by
20.
20. So it's almost offsets.
What it means is the rear property with a 50-foot setback is unusable for end use, once you take the 50 feet. Because here's our rear line, and we go in 50 feet, so there's really no room to develop anything in the rear property. So the R5 becomes useless as an R5 lot with a 50-foot setback. So we're trying to combine it, so we'd have the ability to use the full piece of property.
Following up on Aaron's question, I think you and I talked about this, Bob, maybe a while ago. The interest in, or any discussion with the owners of the commercial property on the corner there?
No, my client hasn't spoken to them, no.
Okay.
How about the neighbors?
I spoke to one neighbor just before the meeting, and I believe it's the neighbor, he told me he was here, I'd say the same thing if he speaks again. The same concern is what is going to be used there. And it's obvious that two things, as I spoke to you before, has to make good planning sense. There's certain uses that aren't going to be there, and once we chose to come up with a use that makes some sense, we meet with the owners and show them how that site works in terms of buffers, landscaping, plantings, where the buildings are constructed, and it's obvious these buildings will be no more than a maybe 1.5 or 2-story building in terms of scale. In terms of this building here and other buildings, they're only 2-story buildings. So the height is going to be the same consistency, the same footprint. It's certainly going to be one. There certainly will not be one big massive building in the site. There's no scale. It doesn't make any sense. This poor design doesn't work. So scale-wise,
Potentially be permitted.
But you're asking, me, we would, so I'm telling you what we would do
I understand.
as my client who's owned it for years. And we're gonna do something that makes some sense. Mr. Moscata's developed pieces of property all over Guilford, and he's concerned about doing stuff that makes some sense. Not just one big block thing. And it's both poor design, we would design it, and the town would accept it.
Just for record, if it is a site plan approval, it does not require communication with neighbors or necessarily a public hearing.
Right,
So that is,
So that stipulation is more just in good faith.
Oh, no,
You're saying-
yeah, always
Good
do
faith,
good
but it is
because again,
not-
we don't want, like, when one of the neighbors is here, we'd like to simply inform them. The worst thing is to see something come up, and whether it's approval or not, his neighbors call you, call the newspaper, call the town, say, how did you allow that? How did you allow that to happen? So we like it to just be a common flow. We think it's a good project, you think it's a good project, the neighbor's gonna be driving by, living there, they have to feel comfortable with it. So there's nothing
it's
to
not
hide.
the nature of the site plan.
So unfortunately, fortunately, it's sort of like good faith design, and knowing that there's certain limitations, because I just know the list, and some of the things I know definitely don't belong here. Now, I know you can't stipulate that, I don't think you can, that you can't do this, or that,
No, you can't.
but there's certain uses that make no sense for my client and for the site.
There are currently residences in
Right,
the yellow,
these little houses, 1, 2, 3, or these 4 little houses.
and so that area is not going to be encroached upon?
No, we're gonna tear you down, no, tear you down, develop it as one nice commercial.
He wants to make it one
Project.
property.
And you talked to those neighbors?
No, my client owns his property,
Okay.
he owns his property. So, they end up being marginal houses, and, at times to make some sense that, I know, Milano Development's along the road into here, there's this corner piece into here, things are all nice in scale. It has the same type of scale feeling that we're gonna be building. It's not gonna be out of character, it will be comfortably in character.
Can you tell me what, on New England Road, the distance from Boston Post Road to the length of that TS2 property, how long is that? Yeah, you were there, that's so far, along New England Road. How deep is that property?
No, to the one to the north,
Just in here?
That's New England Road is on your left.
Yeah, New England Road.
Yeah, so
Like
how
this
long is
property?
that TS2 property line, from the Boston Post Road to the red property line?
This goes,
You know how long that is? How many acres are you
this
talking?
is, this says, for example, this dimension from here
Right,
goes 273 feet to
273.
this monument, which is maybe a
That's
little
not very
more.
That corner lot is not.
This is not up.
And I'm just wondering what the distance
Yes,
is
so-
to that back. Yeah, I just want a scale of size of that.
Yeah,
So
we're
how many
running-
acres is that TS2 piece? You know?
The whole piece is the 57,000 square feet,
57,000.
the whole piece. And our frontage back here, if I simply take the, backwards, 135 and this and that, it's about roughly, it's about 300 feet, the same as that, plus or minus. And it's the line that's been established, Wichita established, years ago, as the zone line arbitrarily going from Boston Post Road up. So I know some have it to the edge of the properties, and we'd like to be able to be one of those. But it said, as per the drawing, still maintain comfortable buffers, which you require anyways.
Any clarifying questions?
Just one more question for town staff. So an alternative to this would be, in theory, they could come with a special permit for a proposed use of that R5? Is that correct or not?
Well, only uses that are allowed in the
Yeah,
R5 by
it's
special
allowed in
permit.
the R5 zone.
Yeah.
So they can, okay, so they can create a commercial plan and then that would be encroaching on the R5?
No, they'd have, in order to develop it commercially, it would have to be rezoned to the commercial zone, TS2 or something similar.
We said we put septic, you can't put septic system here because it's part of my commercial. So even though it's a landscape area over septic, we can't even use it for that. So,
You can't put commercial parking in a residential zone either.
I think staff had some concern as far as the jagged zone line, and that is why we encouraged the applicant to reach out to the neighbor to see if this additional portion along New England Road if they were interested in converting that all as well to a TS2 so that the zone line was even,
So I get that, yeah.
rather than
Yeah,
creating
yeah,
this
was
isolated
way back
residential
when we
pocket.
needed the lot frontage. Well, I was told they needed the lot frontage years ago, so that's why we had that 10-foot piece
Right.
going in.
But as far as speaking to the neighbors to
They want to address
see
it.
if that, right, that's why staff had brought that up, because this creates an isolated residential zone, and ultimately, from a planning perspective, it would be nice to have a
And again,
uniform.
but my client was concerned again, does anything he does affect what we do in terms of the neighbors? So we're here to address, we'll say neighbors here. He didn't want to combine it, but if it's a suggestion, we can always talk to the neighbors. Say, do you want to do it?
That is a suggestion
Yeah.
from staff that we have made, yes.
Are there any clarifying questions first from the audience?
I'd like to make a statement.
We'll get to that. If you don't have any questions, then, anyone? Please come up, state your name and address for the record.
Jennifer Milano, 5 Inwood Drive. I live in the Trolley Walk neighborhood that, I didn't get a chance to see this, but the Trolley Walk neighborhood goes down Turtle Lane, which abuts, hold on.
This is our parcel right here.
Okay, so these are this land is part of the Trolley Walk neighborhood that shares this, sorry, I'm not speaking to the microphone, that shares this property line? Okay, yeah, I've got one. I just wanted to kind of explain where I lived. But I'm just wondering, because I don't know that all the neighbors know about this, and I thought that notice had to be given to neighbors within 500 feet for the public hearing.
Might just be abutting, 500 feet or abutting?
Okay, because I believe no one abutting actually got notice, so I just wanted to raise that as a question, whether certified mail evidence was submitted to, because I just want to make sure all the neighbors have a chance to
Good.
speak.
Well, I knew we did submit them, and we submitted copies of the application to the staff.
I'll have to verify. Here are abutting.
We'd have to double check this, but
I
it looks
have to
to-
look.
this is the list that evidently we provided you.
There should be a Trolley Lane property here, a Turtle Lane parcel here, which may be, I have to verify on
we'll have
the
to double check
record. Some of these are mailing addresses from the tax records, not the actual property address, so I have to compare the map and lot, but I can do that.
I mean, I can confirm that at least 2 abutting property owners did not receive.
Yeah, excuse me, I am the abutting property, never received any notice, went down to town hall, notified them, still didn't receive anything from the town hall.
Okay.
We don't do the notices, the applicant does the notices.
Or the applicant never somehow or another got it to my property, which is the abutting property, number 1. Number 2, we had this issue about 10 years ago.
Okay, so just stand up and state your...
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. She's done.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask the question so that, the neighbors have a chance to come if you decide to continue the public hearing, and if you don't, just know that people didn't get notice.
Can I just, thanks, it's okay. So is anyone here to speak in favor of the application? Would anyone like to make a comment or speak against? Please come to the mic.
Good evening. I'm Dave Zellner. I live at 28 Turtle Lane. I'm the resident. I'm the abutting property. And I never did receive any notification. And 10 years ago, I think we had this same issue. It was denied by the commission. And I'm sorry I never received the notification. And thank you for having this open hearing today. I do appreciate it. About 14 years ago, I purchased my property. I purchased my property based on the home and the environment, where I wanted to raise my family, how I wanted to live in Guilford. That's how I made my decision. Paid my taxes for the last 14 years, enjoyed my property. Today, we want to change a R5 zone over to a TS2. By the way, a TS2 is a laundromat, car repair, auto repair, funeral home, propane storage up to 1,000 gallons, just so we're clear about that.
Right, and those,
Yeah.
some of those don't make sense.
I know they don't make sense today, but they should have been proposed earlier on what you exactly want to do, in my opinion. So the reason I'm here today, I know the board has heard this 1,000 times. My property value is going to go down. The ability to sell my house someday will be hurt. But number three, the most important part, and the reason I'm here today, is my quality of life. Work a hard day, come out there in the summertime, go on the deck, look at my grass, look at my trees, relax, sometimes even hear a bird chirp every once in a while. If this is changed and we become a TS2 property, my quality of life goes down. I lose every reason for ever living here in Guilford, all because of a zoning change. That would hurt me financially, selling my house, and my quality of life. I don't think Guilford is based on that at all. So, with that being said, I propose we do not make this change. It is too hurtful to me, and I also have some neighbors here that would agree with me at this same proposal. Are there any questions? Thank you for your time today.
Would anyone else like to speak? Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Yes, Dr. Steve Pasersha, 31 Turtle Lane. I'm in a butter to David Zellner at 28. I oppose this on 2 points. You know, the first is I was very fortunate to be the first resident of Turtle Lane, and I had the opportunity to see the neighborhood develop. And, you know, one of the things that I noticed as I lived there is every house that went in, things started to change, meaning floodplain issues. Mr. Zellner's being the last house caused major flood issues in my property. The builder, Joseph Milano, had to remediate issues to prevent the flooding in my property because of the last foundation that went in. It must have changed the, you know, the topographic or the pressure issue. You know, my concern with this piece of property coming in and changing, whether they're building a foundation or putting down blacktop, we're going to deal with rainwater runoff issues. And now, you know, the challenge always is now to come to this new developer to say, I got rainwater issues. How are you going to fix it for me? You know, it was very easy in the beginning when the builder came in and did all the landscaping to redo it and to prevent the flooding. This is going to be much more of a challenge and something that we cannot put our finger on. You know, that is a concern of mine. The second issue I have a concern with is when my wife and I purchased the home, as Mr. Zellner brought up, you know, we understood the closeness to Route 1. Understood it, this is where the line is, this is where it became a residential property. Now, the commercial property wants to change the line to encroach upon my property. And it would be no different than me coming to my neighbors and say, I'd like to convert my property to a commercial property. It's going to be a great, lovely little child care center. But let's just change it anyway. I mean, the road to hell was created with good intention. And going to a TS5, we don't know what it's going to be. I don't want a propane. I don't want a garage. I don't want that closer to my house than I already agreed and understood when we purchased it that that's where the line is. And I think we've discussed this, you know, 14 years ago when this happened. The line is the line. We're not supposed to shift it.
Any other people like to comment? Come on back up.
Jennifer Milano, 5 Inwood Drive. I just wanted to say that, you know, despite this applicant's intentions to work with the neighbors, that the reality is once the zone's changed, it's changed, and they could turn around and sell the property to somebody else, and we could be stuck with, I mean, I think by special permit, they're allowed up to 50,000 square feet, 40-foot tall, could be a hotel, a movie theater, manufacturing is listed in there. All types of uses that really don't belong next to a residential neighborhood that, we've been living there for 15 years now, under the understanding that, as Mr. Paceris has said, the line is the line. Also, one of the neighbors couldn't be here tonight. She wrote a letter and asked me to read it into the record. Can I do that and give you a copy? Sure. Okay. To may concern, my name is Hae-Soon Ko, and as a resident of 1 Turtle Lane, Guilford, Connecticut, I'm writing to express my concerns regarding the zoning hearing. Unfortunately, I will be unable to make the meeting tonight, but my husband, Moo Hong Ro, will be in attendance. I see him in the back, but he's taking a nap. I am opposed to the zoning for the following reasons. 1, we were never notified of the hearing. 2, the permitted uses in the zone include propane filling, storage, gas stations, hotels, hospitals, movie theaters, manufacturing, car wash. Many of these uses are intensive, could foreseeably create problems such as light pollution, noise pollution, and could be an eyesore. Uses such as propane filling and storage pose safety risks to our community and my family. We bought our house in a residential neighborhood, and a change of zone to TS2 so close to our home and neighborhood will negatively impact our property value and way of life. For these reasons, among many others, I ask that you reconsider approving this zone change. Sincerely yours, Hae-Soon Ko.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Can I make one more comment?
Sure. Absolutely.
I promise. I'm not really good at measurements, but I imagine 30 feet is from this microphone to that wall. That's not a buffer. Thank you.
Well, I'm sorry?
Suggestion, but go ahead.
As you know, applications like this require 2 meetings. I'm either inclined to act on it tonight or continue it. I'd like to get some feedback.
Let me just add, if you do continue, we'd recommend that you do so to the March 20th meeting, which would then allow the applicant enough time to do the re-notification or the expanded notification to allow the proper time, correct, to do that.
I think to be honest with you, my personal opinion is I would have liked to have seen the proposed development before the approval process. I mean, I understand why you'd like it approved and then bring us something nice and pretty, but I'd rather would have seen it, something nice and pretty, and then we could potentially try and approve it with everyone having an understanding of what was potentially going in. But that's not what we're presented, so.
No, but again, if it's as George is saying, if you recommend tabling this.
Well, there's a second public hearing.
A second public hearing. I would discuss with my client, and we'll know in a day or two if we actually will submit a plan of development, so when you see what's going to happen, you know what you will be approving as part of the second public hearing. So we can re-notify the neighbors, we'll submit some additional information to George, and which will reflect potential development of that site. So you have 2 things, a comfort level of what you do approve, what we show is what you will be approving, and gives the neighbors, and I thought on the notification we had them all, so we'll take care of that. And just with my client, since the public hearing is basically extended, we talked about with my client tomorrow, developing a project that you will see as part of the approval package.
This is an application for a zoning map amendment, not an application for development of the property. So that would require a separate application process.
But the chairman said he'd like to see part of that as my application. Is that what you're recommending or suggesting?
I would say that you would probably need an application in advance or a parallel application.
Well, we always have a second page, you need P&Z approval for all that. I'm just saying for informational purposes, was that a separate application or is that
a potential development, but that would not be an approval from the commission?
For informational purposes, as the chairman would say. He saw the...
It's still open Pandora's box potentially.
Well, again, that's what you have to say by client. Did we let this, develop this? Because as of right, we can still develop the front half of the TS.
Yeah, I think everyone that is abutting appreciates that when they bought in, that was potentially could happen there.
Right.
So, but not in the back.
No, we would just expect, we know that. So the question is, if you, again, if it takes two public hearings, whatever you do procedure-wise, and I'll talk to my client tomorrow and decide if we develop that with some more information for you as to what we want to do, or simply say we're going to develop this and this stays draft. But the whole purpose is to, again, we want to be environmentally friendly. And I want to assure that to the neighbors, that was not our intent.
If the commission continues this to the 20th, would that be enough time for you to do this plan that you're talking about, do you think?
Yes, but as
Assuming
it's an architectural plan,
Yeah.
but we know there's still a separate application.
Of course.
For approval.
Yeah.
So,
Everybody knows
someone like to make a motion to continue to March 20th.
I'll make the motion to continue to the 20th.
I'll second.
Okay, call the vote, all in favor? Thank you. See you on the 20th. James and Joyce Glass, 2 Guilford Point Drive, map 27, lot 7, zone R3, coastal area management for installation of a lovely 20 by 33 in-ground swimming pool and spa.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, my name is Michael Harkin. I'm a professional engineer and principal of Harkin Engineering, located at 78 Wolf Hollow Lane in the town of Killingworth, Connecticut. Again, here today on behalf of my clients, James and Joyce Glass, for their project located at 2 Guilford Point Drive in your town of Guilford, Connecticut. Just to orient yourselves with the proposed site, Jacob's Beach is located right here. And then, you know, this is the first house on the left on Guilford Point Drive as you come up with the white fence. So, again, we're here for a swimming pool application. It is a CAM application because we are in the CAM zone. You can see this is Long Island Sound. We do have a seawall on the property. We also do have a flood zone on the property. This is a BE elevation 14, and over in this area is a AE elevation 12. So the swimming pool itself in its entirety is located outside the flood zone. We did a B100 application for the health department to show that we do have a code-compliant septic area on the site, just in case the existing system fails. With that being said, we've brought this to numerous staff meetings. We've gone over it with staff. We did get a letter from Carol Smansky, who's the DEP CAM reviewer. She had a list of comments on there. We revised the plan accordingly to basically meet or match most of the comments on there. I think in your file you'll see that the town engineer has wrote back that we have addressed all her comments. The environmental planner has a couple comments in his letter that we're well aware of, and we agree upon those. I think the health department as well has submitted a positive letter for this project. So pretty simple. The house is up in front. The swimming pool is going in back. We meet all the zoning requirements, and we meet all the setbacks. So with that being said, that's pretty much the end of my presentation. This one's kind of an easy one for us.
Shoot. This is from Kevin McGee, James and Joyce Glass, dated February 20th, 2019. The applicant is looking at installing an in-ground swimming pool and spa. The property is located in a FEMA AE elevation 12 flood zone and adjacent to a FEMA wave velocity zone EL12. The plans for the project have sedimentation and erosion control measures designed to protect the adjacent Guilford Harbor. The Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, Connecticut DEEP, regulates the discharge of pool water and requires pool contractors to be registered under their general permit for, quote, discharge of swimming pool wastewater, end quote. The general permit provides standards that the contractors must follow while working on pools, which include limits on chemicals being discharged and the requirement to discharge to subsurface infiltration system. In order to make sure that the natural resources are protected, I recommend the following conditions of approval. 1, staked hay bales be installed in addition to the silt fence. 2, the Town of Guilford zoning enforcement officer shall be notified to inspect the sedimentation and erosion control measures prior to any site work. Soil erosion and sedimentation control measures shall be maintained until vegetation is established or suitable material is installed to the satisfaction of zoning enforcement. 3, as noted on the coastal site plan prepared by James and Joyce Glass, number 2, Guilford Point Drive. prepared by Harking Engineering LLC, dated January 1st, 2019, last revised on January 30th, 2019. No on-site stockpiling of soil is allowed. And 4, all discharges from swimming pool be discharged in accordance to the latest version of the Connecticut DEEP General Permit for Discharge of Swimming Pool Wastewaters. End quote.
One from Dennis Johnson,
Please.
dated February 19th, from Dennis Johnson, Town Health Director. The applicant's proposed in-ground pool and spa will not conflict with the location or function of the septic system currently serving the dwelling. Adequate septic reserve areas exist on the lot for future repair or expansion of the septic system should it be necessary. It is recommended that this applicant's proposed CAM application be approved.
Thank you very much. Any clarifying questions from commissioners?
The tiering that you're showing, is that hardscape or is it just intended to be grass lawn?
This area?
Yeah.
Adjacent to the pool, it's going to be a hardscape patio.
Okay. Is there going to be fencing or is it just patio?
It has to be, there has to be fencing around there to meet the building code requirements for swimming.
And I was more referring to those 3 kind of really dark lines, yeah.
Yeah, so what that is, that's silt fencing, double row of silt
Okay,
fence.
so you're showing the...
Yeah,
okay,
as
really.
well as the stake hay bales.
Sure.
We show them on the plan. And just one last note, as Kevin kept reviewing to the DEP water requirements, we actually go one step further. There will be no discharging of pool water on our site. The pool company, there's a note right here, basically has to suck it up and then truck it off. It's a very simple process. They bring it in and they dump it, they can suck it out and take it out. It happens.
Are you adjusting the elevation at all of the current grade, or is it pretty much, are you maintaining the current
It's
grade?
pretty much level. That was one of DEP's comments. We were adjusting, because the grade slopes a little bit, we were adjusting the backside by 2 feet.
Okay.
DEP said, let's make it flush, so we brought it down. We split the difference between the two on the advice of the town engineer. So it is up like a foot maybe on the one side.
Do you have a letter from Carol? Sure.
It's long.
We did address all of her comments in our staff review.
If you're comfortable
I think we are.
with Carol's comments and they've been addressed.
Yes, so she, we sent early on to her, and then we had a staff meeting and and Mike addressed all of the concerns
Everyone comfortable
that
with
she
that?
had.
Kevin, you're just outside.
Right.
First is 5-feature.
Any other clarifying questions from the audience? Yes, Mr. Cunningham, isn't it? Come on up, state your name and address, please. No, but at the mic, please.
All the way.
Sorry, I know you're shy.
Good evening, John Cunningham, I'm owner of TEC Landscape Design. I was just wondering if it was a liner pool or a gunite pool.
Good question. Right now, they haven't made the decision whether it's going to be line or a gunite. I think that's going to be more so as it goes on. I personally design a bunch of gunite pools. I do the steel design in there, but they haven't asked yet if whether it's going to be gunite or liner.
Any comments in favor of the application? Would anyone like to speak against it? Would someone like to make a motion to close?
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman, Mr. Harkin also represents the Lazarus application. I'm sure he would appreciate if you would jump forward and do that one, and then come back and do Metro Pooch,
Okay.
if that's okay with you.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda.
I make a motion, we move up Lazarus.
Second.
All in favor? You're back up.
Raise Lazarus.
Hopefully this one is just as quick. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Michael Harkin, professional engineer and principal of Harkin Engineering. This is for an existing residence located at 162 Daniel Ave, Guilford, Connecticut, for Mark Lazarus and Kimberly Sue Keever. There is an existing subject house on the site. You can see it's located on the survey plan from Anderson Engineering and Associates. I was here last year for a shed application, you may remember, in the corner of this property. We had placed a shed. It directly abuts Long Island Sound and Indian Cove. The front of the house is Daniel Avenue. So the client would like to tear down that existing house, and then, which is non-conforming, and build a more conforming house, which meets all the planning and zoning regulations. As you see in front of you, it's a CAM soil erosion control plan. You can see the existing house, deck. The location of the old house is in this section, so we're moving it further back, away from Long Island Sound. We are going to leave a portion of the existing deck that's in the left-hand corner of the subject property. We show the existing septic system that was just recently repaired over on the left. The shed will remain. We do have a new kind of half-moon circular driveway. We showed a couple cars for the parking. Right now, this whole area is grass and cars just park all along it. The town engineer asked us to not put a more well-defined driveway in and not basically have a driveway cut from property line to property line, which we did. We've, again, gone to staff meetings numerous times on this one. We've met all the requirements. The whole design meets all the planning and zoning regulations. As you can see here, we do have some drainage calculations. We're actually decreasing the amount of impervious on the site, so there's no need for underground detention, but we did take the roof leaders and put them into small depression areas in order to slow the velocity before it goes out to Long Island Sound. On this plan, you can see not only do we have sill fencing and stake hay bales, we also put a line of orange construction fence so they know that to go any further towards that Long Island Sound area. On the plan itself, again, we have things for CAM, no stockpiles allowed on the site. All the demo should be done and taken off-site immediately so they don't have demo piles there. We do have a required view lane easement that comes on one of the properties. That's a requirement for this. Again, that's pretty much the project in a nutshell. We're taking a non-conforming house and making it conforming.
In the flood zone?
It is in a flood zone, yes, sir.
So will the house be elevated?
It will. The flood zone, as you can see, is over here. That is a velocity 14 zone. The property climbs pretty quickly. Once we get up to this area, we're in an X zone. So it doesn't have to be lifted way out of the ground like we normally see. Finished floor is basically 20.25, existing grade 16, so we're about 4 feet. It's not going to be, most of the houses there are at the same elevation, so it's not going to stick out like a sore thumb.
Is that a retaining wall against the water?
This one right here?
Yeah.
No, it's the erosion controls, the
Oh, that's
hay
your-
bales and stuff.
Okay.
This shaded area is a large section of ledge. If you're familiar with Daniel Ave, it's all ledge with a lot of fill brought in on top of it. So it's really rocky and bony. So there's not going to be a lot of erosion, but we still need to show those erosion controls.
More questions from the commissioners? Do you have any letters?
One from Kevin.
Okay,
One from Carol.
all right.
This is dated February 26 today to the Planning and Zoning Commission from Kevin McGee, Environmental Planner. Reason Coastal Area Management Review, Mark Lazarus, 162 Daniel Avenue, Guilford, Connecticut, Assessor Map 10, Lot 164. The information provided indicates that the existing house is being torn down and replaced with a new house constructed further away from the coastal resources. The stormwater management system consists of separated roof leaders discharging to stone energy diffusers. The coastal resource policies applicable for the property are coastal hazard area rocky shorefront, coastal waters, intertidal flats, and shellfish concentration areas. The site plan provides for erosion and sedimentation control measures that are designed to protect the adjacent coastal resources. The work being conducted should have an impact on the adjacent coastal resources if the erosion and sedimentation control measures are not properly installed and maintained. In order to make sure that the coastal resources are protected, I recommend the following conditions of approval. 1, the Town of Guilford Zoning Enforcement Officer should be notified to inspect the sedimentation and erosion measures prior to any demolition or site construction. Soil stockpiles should be contained by silt fencing and/or hay bales. Soil erosion Vegetation control measures shall be maintained until vegetation is established or suitable material is installed to the satisfaction of the zoning enforcement officer. 2, the site should be inspected daily to make sure that all construction debris has been properly disposed of in a covered dumpster. 3, prior to any demolition or site work, a pre-construction meeting be held with the town's environmental planner, town engineer, and zoning enforcement officer.
Cool, you good with all that?
Yes, sir, most of it's already on the plan. It's just restating.
Would anyone in the audience have a question or like to make a comment in favor of this application? Would anyone like to make a comment against it?
Dennis, we also have a letter from Dennis Johnson.
If you could read that, that would be great.
Sure. Okay. So Dennis Johnson, Director of Health on this application, has said, the applicant's proposed house rebuild will not increase the existing habitable floor space and will reduce the total bedroom count from 4 bedrooms to 3 bedrooms. Construction of the new house footprint will not affect to location or function of the existing septic system. It is recommended that the applicant's proposed coastal area management plan be approved.
Didn't mention the other meeting. The other application is that we did post the sign, we took a picture, we did submit it to town staff, so it's in the file, as well as the mailing cards were also submitted.
Thank you.
So it's a complete application.
Any other questions? Someone want to make a motion to close?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
5 Rex Properties, Inc., Metro Pooch, 201 Soundview Road, map 42, lot 118-4, 5, and 6, coastal area management, site plan and special permit for construction of 9,692 square foot pet boarding facility with apparent parking and on-site sewage disposal systems.
Good evening, Chuck Mandel, agent for the applicant, Verbax Properties. With me tonight is Chris Julia, owner-operator. Before I start, I'll give you a couple of handouts here. There was a couple of text changes and very minor changes that we had given to town staff. I guess you can share these. And here are some elevations and a floor plan that you want to look at. Okay, the property address is 201 Soundview Road. It's in an I-2 zone. 3 lots were combined into 1 lot, which total area is now 11.99 acres. That was done on January 11th, 2017, along with a pedestrian and maintenance agreement in favor of the town of Guilford. It was recorded in Book 909, pages 722 through 730, and it's in the Guilford Land Records. And I have a copy that I can submit as an exhibit, so you have it for your records. On April 4th, 2009, Inland Wetlands approved the site plan, and they said no regulated activity, nothing within their jurisdiction within 100 feet. Planning and Zoning Commission approved a zoning code amendment to allow a pet boarding facility for dogs and cats as a special permit in an I-2 zone. That was section 273-22F. This facility will incorporate all elements of this regulation. Specifically, the solid noise reduction fencing will be installed for all animal enclosures, and all waste is to be picked up and collected in odor-controlled containers. On November 22nd, P&Z Commission approved essentially the same facility. It's actually going to be 2,500 square feet smaller than the original approval, and that's what we're proposing tonight. We're here tonight for approval of a site plan and coastal site plan approval. We went to design review on 2/13/19, and John Cunningham can discuss that further if there are any questions in regards to the design review and also for the landscape plan. The proposed facility is to be known as Metro Cooch. It will have a footprint of 9,692 square feet. It's in a flood zone of AE 12, but the proposed finished floor is going to be 12.25, which will get us about 1'3" of freeboard above the base flood elevation. There will be 60 kennels and 2 grooming stations. The facility will be on public water and gas, and will have 2 separate sewage disposal systems. Each will handle 1,000 gallons, and we do have a letter from Dennis Johnson that approved those systems. The building will be accessed by paved one-way drive with an entrance at the north end. 20 parking spaces are included, 1 handicap meets all ADA standards, and the exit will be like a 10% grade leaving. Play areas are proposed within and outside the building. Public access was proposed and approved by DEP on the original plan, and we're going to maintain that same access way for public use. Carol Zemansky has looked at that. She had a couple of comments we addressed. I think she wanted, there were some minor changes, which we agreed to do. Actually, they were less, with less cost for us. I think she they wanted to add a couple of benches also. We have viewing lanes, 40-foot and 20-foot wide viewing lanes, and a formal easement would be drawn up for approval by the DEP and Town Council. Coastal resources are tidal wetlands and the high tide line. The coastal jurisdiction line is at elevation 4, and all of our proposed improvements are landward of the coastal jurisdiction line. And Kristen can discuss the operation of the facility if there are any questions, and that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Can you clarify what it will be filed
Those viewing
between
lanes.
DEP?
We have viewing lanes that we proposed that were recommended, and so those can get formalized by deed restrictions on the property.
Questions from the commissioners?
The fire department doesn't have any concern or need to get to the back at all?
We had spoken with the fire department, and then we had shown there are 3 egress areas, and there are doors that lead to the outside, but they really specifically mentioned they wanted 2 egress, and we provided 3.
I just went through my files from when we approved this the last time, or got you to this point. There's not much change in the size of the facility.
It actually got smaller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Building sprinkler?
I'm sorry?
Sprinkler building?
I'm not sure. That's whatever the building code is, Chris. No sprinklers are proposed. I know one of the bigger issues was the soundproofing. So I do have the original sound report that we submitted. I also got an updated one since the construction is going to change. But the sound transmission class of 45 is what's required in the regulations once it goes through the wall. And I have a letter from Verb Max, Fiber Sciences of Branford, and I can submit that as an exhibit also, if they say they meet the FTC of 45.
Yeah. All the kennels are in the rear of the building facing the water, right?
If you look at the floor plan, then,
Yeah.
oh, yeah,
Yeah, it looks like that.
yes. Yeah.
Just for the record, on your Fiber Science note that you just submitted, it's dated 2/20. To Pat Munger Construction, based on the information provided for the dog daycare facility in regards to construction of the exterior wall system with its relation to the property line, the following finding of this application. The Golden Retriever is considered to have the loudest bark of the domesticated dogs. That bark has been measured on an average to be 95 decibel scale. A, at 4 feet from the dog. With the exterior wall system consisting of 5/8 gypsum, 6-inch wood framing, 6-inch wall cavity filled with fibrous insulation, 5/8 exterior plywood, 1/2 inch thick, rigid foam board insulation, then vinyl siding, we can assume that an STC of 45 sound transmission class, which will provide a decibel reduction of approximately 23 decibels. A, therefore, with a noise level of 95 dB, A, on the inside of the building, we can expect a noise level of approximately 72 dB. Just on the outside of the exterior and directly up against it. However, because the noise decays over distance and the property line at the closest distance from the build is approximately 50 feet away, we can expect a noise level of 56 to 54 decibel scale. A, at the property line. Should you have any questions or require additional information, please contact us. Joe Fattori, Viber Science.
And if I may add one more thing, in addition to the walls, there is going to be soundproof fencing around the entire perimeter where the dogs are housed.
Chuck, can I ask, part of the original application included a noise evaluation or report, and it discussed that there would be a maximum of 20 dogs outside at any given time.
Yes.
Can you verify if that is the same with this
Kristen?
proposal?
My name's Kristen DeLay. I'm the owner of the Metro Pooch. So with our original application, when we stated 20 dogs, we have, that's kind of a, not kind of, that is an estimate, whether there will be 25 dogs outside at once or, 5 dogs outside at once. We really don't have an exact number to tell you. There won't be thousands of dogs outside, but the importance is the sound data that we're providing, which is the original study in normal terms for normal folk like us that don't understand all these numbers, is the data produced numbers showing that from us to, say, Sperry Drive, which is across the way from us, by the time all of our internal building wall materials and soundproofing mixed with the outside soundproofing objectives that we're taking, being acoustical curtains on the outside of our fences, excuse me, as well as acoustical panels on the exterior of the building, which all deal with absorbing sound and echoes and everything. By the time one dog barking, or even 1,000 dogs barking, which would never be, by the time that bark hit Sperry Drive, which I could throw a stone to my friend's house from there, it would sound like a whisper. So with all these measures met. So
The calculations in the original were based on 20 dogs outside.
Right.
That's what I wanted
So,
to
there
clarification.
will be 20 dogs outside, but whether it's 5 dogs at a time, 20 dogs at a time, we won't be able to give you an exact number because it'll depend on the makeup of our playgroups that day.
Hours, based on like how late or early you're going to have dogs outside?
So our facility is a 24-hour care facility. So with that being said, we offer dog daycare. So our dogs will not be out, and currently, we're, by the way, a currently operating facility who has these structured times currently. So for example, right now, we open to the public at 7 a.m., and that would be the same here. People can drop their dogs off 24 hours a day, but in terms of dogs and us touching dogs and feeding dogs and letting dogs out, 7 a.m. is when we feed dogs, and then this is Monday through Friday. 8 a.m. we let the dogs out to use the bathroom, and we do that in small groups. We currently are in North Branford. We have not in 10 years had one complaint for noise, and we have neighbors that are even closer than this proximity in Guilford. And no soundproofing done. We're in a tin building, metal building right now. But about 8 o'clock, they're let out to use the bathroom. They come back in. They need an hour to digest so that they don't get gastrointestinal issues. And then we start camp anywhere between 8:30 and 9 o'clock. So at the end of the night, our closing hours are basically the working schedule of the average individual. So you can figure they would be out potentially from 8:30, 8 o'clock maybe at the earliest, till about 5:30 at night. 5:30 at night, we go in, we start putting them down for the night, and they eat their dinner.
In addition, the major run is actually to the west of the property, behind the building. The closest residence is directly across the street. It's about 160 feet. And I did do a small chart showing distances. So I just kind of got that off of Google Earth. So there's Metro Pooch there, 160 feet to the nearest residence. Then you have Joyce Street, which is 372. That's an industrial building. That's another industrial building. Then you go across the marsh. So the school is about almost 1,600 feet away, and then the property is on the other side of the marsh. But you have quite a bit of dense vegetation, phragmites also, so it's one way to say it.
So we did have people from that far away last time.
Yes, we did, and the sound study addressed that also.
Yeah, we had one individual last time who's not present tonight, who's actually his daughter brings his dog to us. Just to show you guys, this is the example of the fencing that we're using. It's called Simtac. A lot of facilities around the country, like mine, that are state-of-the-art facilities, that every ounce of material built in these facilities is built for key things that protect our dogs' overall mental, emotional, and physical well-being, one of which the biggest things that affect the dog is sound. So sound for me, as a kennel owner and as a behavioral consultant and obedience trainer for dogs, is a huge factor for me to control. Barking dogs are not happy dogs. They're not dogs that are being well cared for, or not well cared for, I shouldn't say that, probably a better term. They're not being given the enrichment that they need to be happy dogs. There are dogs who are incessant barkers because their parents have given them reinforcement to that bark, and that's where I step in as a behavioral trainer and say, okay, now we need to have a home lesson. If we have dogs barking, even in our current state where it is a metal building and it echoes and reverberates off of everything, I walk into a playroom and I shut down the barking within probably a 2-minute span. I don't allow barking. It means that we're not being attentive to needs. That one barker will be removed from the yard if we have all measures that we've done to get them to stop barking. But
One of the questions on the previous application was, Kristen had mentioned a no bark policy, and I had asked her to type that out, so this doesn't go to waste. I'm going to hand this out.
so it's a no bark policy that my staff goes by. However, if you guys read the sound prevention and control plan, noise has a huge impact on dogs. So inside, to control their noise level, we're going to have panels hanging from the ceiling and all of that. Lighting is a big factor, as well as enrichment, small group play, proper dog socialization in terms of proper play styles and grouping with dogs of like needs and behaviors. But the no bark policy, I just want to make sure I'm not telling you that no dog will ever bark. Dogs bark. They have a voice. They bark. So you will hear a dog that'll play bow and woof, bark at a dog to play. That is natural play. What we're talking about is that incessive barking that we might hear on our porch if we're outside at night on a summer night and you hear that dog in the background that's just yip, 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 yipping away. That's an unsupervised dog whose needs aren't being met. That is not what we're talking about. Also, the majority of the day when these dogs are out in the daycare setting, residents in the area, which again, this is a commercial zone, commercial area that we are building in, those residents will be at work. So maybe not all of them, but this is during working hours that these dogs are out, because these are the people we're serving. We're serving people who are at work and leave their dogs with us for their care for the day. So sound is huge to us, just as it should be to anyone else on the panel tonight.
Introduce John Cunningham to go over the landscape plan before we get any further. Sure. Anyone have any questions? John?
Good evening. My name is John Cunningham, owner of TEC Landscape Design Incorporated, and a resident of Guilford, of the 310 Boston Street. For those of you that were here the last time we presented, the site really hasn't changed as much. Parking has changed a little bit in the front of the building. The plant material palette is still about the same. It's mostly native material. I introduced hedge maple, which is Acer campestri. It's a terrific form of maple. It's a small grower. There are wires on this side of the street, which we're using back along the road. The light green is an artificial turf that's going to be used in the dog pen area. Okay, it's easy to clean up after the dogs use it. The lime green on the rest of the property. There are two different forms of seed here. There's a wetland mix we're going to use in the basins. There's a conservation mix, and a conservation mix can be allowed to naturalize or it can be maintained. We are probably going to maintain it around the building. We're probably going to let it naturalize away from the building. We presented the design review, I guess about a month ago or so, 3 weeks ago. There are a couple little questions. One question was the handicap parking. Siobhan asked if the percentage of slope or grade in here met ADA requirements. It does. The building is higher than the road, so we're sweeping in up to that area and then back down to Sound View down here, but the handicap parking meets all the regulations. They also asked about lighting. When we last presented, we used all bollards, a 54-inch light fixture that had a full cutoff. Both town staff and design review asked for a little bit more lighting in some of the areas, because the bollard, which is on this plan, okay, it's not a very large circle, but there is illumination at about 20 feet from the bollard. We have since, and I dropped off tonight, we've suggested a 15-foot full cutoff fixture, so it's on a 15-foot post. It's still a full cutoff fixture, but it's going to allow a little bit more light, and there are 3 of them. One where my finger is, one right here, and one in the middle of the parking area here. And what that's going to do is, the circle that's shown on the new plan is about twice this size. It's actually going to illuminate this front area of the building leading to the front entranceway, so at night, someone can leave and get to their car, and there's a little bit more lighting, which we thought was fine with the application. I don't think there's really anything else. The same path has been left. There's going to be additional parking.
This is public access, right?
Yes, it is. So there's parking here, and this is public access back down to the, I heard from the owner of the property that the crabbing is really good down there. So if you do happen to go down, chicken legs? He says chicken legs. All right. I don't think there's anything else that...
The Design Review Committee was generally favorable with regard to the architecture of the building. They did have some suggestions for some modest changes in the several aspects. I think the applicant was agreeable to those changes, and their suggestion was that you come back with a final design on those changes subsequent to this commission's approval, should you approve it.
That's a good point, George. We are going back to design review with some, there are some minor changes on both the building. I did make some changes. Shirley Gironi really wanted to see some evergreen material on the plan, which is fine with me. We're using red cedar, which is a new addition from our first go-around. But we are going back to design review, I believe, next month with those changes, George.
The changes have been made.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Design review?
We have a copy of their minutes in our file. Would you like? They don't make.
They were in favor of the application.
Yes, absolutely, definitely.
We have a letter here from Dennis Johnson. Anyone want to jump in? I will. The applicant's proposed dog boarding facility will contain a total of 60 kennels and 2 grooming stations, creating a total daily design waste flow of 2,000 gallons per day. Soil tests conducted at the site in June 2005 revealed well-drained soils consisting of sandy gravel with an elevated water table. An engineered plan prepared by Thomas Stevenson Associates dated 2/18/19 depicts a code-compliant septic system design which will adequately accommodate the proposed daily water use. A public water supply will be available for the facility. Based upon soil tests and the site plan review, it is recommended that the applicant's proposed site plan and special permit be approved for construction of a pet boarding facility and septic system. Do you have a copy of this?
We do. Okay. Mr. Chairman, I want to read one from Kevin McGee. And in it, I think he summarizes the DEP from Carol's letter, so I think we can, if you're okay, I'll read that one instead.
That would be good.
So this is dated February 20th, 2019, from Kevin McGee, our environmental planner. To the Guilford Planning and Zoning, the applicant proposes to construct a 9,692 square foot building with associated parking, sanitary system, and stormwater system. The property will be filled approximately 8 feet to keep the first floor of the building 1 foot above the FEMA-based flood elevation 11 NAVD. The applicant has completed the checklist and guide to low-impact development best management practices and utilizing several of the recommended practices. The stormwater management system at the site utilizes low-impact design features consisting of roof leaders, catch basins, parking lot runoff, flowing into rain gardens designed to treat the first inch of rainfall. The plan for the project have sedimentation and erosion control procedures that are in compliance with 273-97B subsection 6 of the zoning regulations. The southwesterly portions of the property is bordered by East Creek and associated tidal marshes. As part of the Coastal Management Act, coastal public access is required to be provided at any waterfront site proposed for non-water dependent use to make the project consistent with Connecticut DEEP water dependent use policies. As part of the 2016 application to develop the property, a public access path was provided to be constructed on the east side of the development from Soundview Road to the east of East Creek to satisfy this requirement. This coastal access path was formalized on January 20th, 2017 with the filing of a coastal access easement and maintenance agreement in the Guilford Town Clerk's office. In accordance to the easement, the property owner is responsible for maintaining the public access path. In order to make sure that the coastal resources are protected, I recommend the following conditions of approval. 1, the Town of Guilford zoning enforcement officer shall be notified to inspect the sedimentation and erosion control measures prior to any site work. Soil stockpiles should be contained by silt fencing and/or hay bales. Soil erosion and sedimentation control measures shall be maintained until vegetation is established or suitable material is installed to the satisfaction of the zoning enforcement officer.
Very good, thank you.
I'll read the final paragraph of the Design Review Committee minutes.
That would be great.
Mr. Thompson made a motion that the Design Review Committee recommend PZC approve the concept of this application, we're referring to Metro Pooch, with the stipulation that the applicant return to DRC for a final review of building design, including site of gables, landscape plans, siding material, window alignments, update on condenser locations and screening, update on site lighting and material palette. Mr. Rosenthal seconded the motion and it was carried unanimously. Mr. Cunningham recused himself and did not take part in the discussion or vote on this application.
Any clarifying questions from commissioners?
Just a quick question on how dog waste is handled.
That is all picked up and put in odor-free odor containers, and then it's picked up and taken off site.
So then I'll throw it on the marsh.
That's not proposed.
Any clarifying questions from the audience? Would anyone like to speak in favor of the application? Would anyone like to speak against the application? Please step forward, state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. Mike Bowen, property owner at 215 Sperry Drive. Sounds very nice, what you're going to do. My concern is the noise. Dogs barking. Soundproofing is great. I'm an AV professional. I know how sound works. Sound is energy. Energy travels. Sperry Drive is elevated, for those of you who are familiar with that area. We're elevated above Soundview. So sound traveling or dogs barking in that area, are there any plans to address, the above outdoor areas to dampen sound in that area? Because that would be my concern. It's a peaceful neighborhood. I know there's other commercial businesses in that area, but it's a pretty quiet neighborhood right now. I'd like to see it stay that way. Love dogs. Have a couple dogs myself, but that's my main concern is the barking and the noise level that could be created on a regular basis. And I love the way that you approach it with a no bark attitude. But my main concern is the elevation that the house is currently at and where that is, that it could certainly travel upward, and I don't want to hear that.
Or when they're outside.
Yes.
Right. We'll be
Obvious.
elevating up, so we're building up 8 feet. So we're going to be raising that ground up 8 feet and building on top of that. So,
Let me
Go
just
ahead.
jump in here. The dogs are, what's the typical height of the dog? Couple feet? 1 foot?
yeah, right.
We're going to have 6-foot soundproofing fencing. It's very expensive, but it does have sheets, and it does attenuate the sound right at the fencing. So even though you are elevated, the fencing itself, and there's a brochure, it's called Simtech, if you want to look it up online, or I can submit this as an exhibit also. So just look at that. But that fencing is designed specifically for dogs barking. And they don't typically want the dogs barking outside anyway.
Sure.
There is staff outside constantly with the dogs.
We'll go down.
If there is complaints in the neighborhood of barking, is there a recourse? Is there anything that could be done?
Well, if I can jump in again, this was brought up at the last meeting. Zoning does have specific requirements for sound levels based on this report and the dogs outside. We do meet the criteria in the I2 zone for sound levels. And if the dogs do bark, by all means, people can complain to the town. And it have to be addressed if there are complaints.
Even before that, though, we had a gentleman from across the way, opposite way of Sperry, talk to us last time. And, I grew up in this town. I have friends that live on your street, tons of customers on your street. As I told this gentleman, you are welcome to have my cell phone number and let me know if there's ever noise bothering you. And I will be there almost every hour of the day with my family as well. And you'd be welcome to just shoot me a message and tell me you need it quieter. And if we ever even got there, and I'd be happy to pull everyone in for you.
Okay.
Saturday or Sunday when they're outside in the play yard, you're going to come down from your house and
I'm
stop
there,
working?
I'm there 7 days a week.
But are you going to be there for all the whole hours of days of operation?
Well,
Stop the parking? That's
Again,
our point.
if you were.
Saturday and Sunday when we aren't at work, and we are working from home.
So, because we guys can't get back and forth, by the way. So if you guys got questions, ask them. Is it safe to say, if this is the scale, that the closest residence off of Sperry Drive is probably 300 feet away, at least, if not more? I mean, if I'm doing the scale correctly.
Yeah, where's that other
So-
chart? Where's that map that I did?
I just want to see exactly what.
Yeah, that's why I did highlight the distances on
It was
that sheet that I did with the white out with the distances. So this
I threw
is,
that one out, no.
okay. So here's the facility.
Yeah.
So across the creek, it's about 1,000 feet away.
Yeah, I'm looking more towards the Sperry
Oh,
Drive.
okay,
right?
so this is 372 feet to this residence, and this is off Joyce Street. Is that Joyce Street there?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's.
So that's 370.
That's 322, I guess, to the nearest house.
This is the
The closest one is 160 feet. That's directly across the street. The regulations say 150 feet from the facility.
What address is that one?
I'm not sure. It's at the end of Joyce Street.
And you were saying Sperry?
mostly concerned.
You got to be well over 1,000 feet, so.
Here's Sperry, so that's 300, so that could be even double.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good distance. But I just wanted to get it because you brought it up. I just was just curious to see where exactly. So I think, yeah, somebody on Joyce would be. Okay.
And the play facility is actually behind those buildings, so not only would it have to go through, it has to go through the buildings, because the dogs are outside on the west side, and the Sperry's on the east side, so it would have to go through the building also. The building height's about 35 feet, so whether the elevation is there or not, it's still blocked by the entire building. And the walls of the building themselves meet the standards, so you're going through more than that.
Any other comments, questions?
Just like, I think the most important factor is again, if I grew up in this town, and I always, as we've always spoken, I always think about it in terms of if this was coming in neighborhood near the high school, near where I live, how would I feel? And I just want to stress to you that, you can contact me at any time if we ever do go without, go outside of these boundaries that we've committed to. And then, you do have the town to support you behind that. However, again, healthy, happy dogs are not barking. An occasional bark here and there to, like play vow that you mentioned you do have dogs, we're not going to stop that. We're talking the barking that will actually disturb you. And beyond that, it has to get through building. It has to get through soundproofing and sound absorption panels on both exterior fences, interior buildings, and everything else. I mean, it's for you to actually be affected by this, it would have to mean that we just didn't put any of these materials in our building and just let dogs go wild and do whatever they needed to do.
Yeah, and understand, I'm in the neighborhood, concerned, like what you're doing, but I don't want to hear barking.
Neither do we.
Thank you.
Remind the commission that this is a special permit use that runs with the land, so you do have the option of placing, regardless of who the owner is, placing conditions on the approval that will run with the land.
I was going to mention that on the proposed motion that's been typed up previously for us, there is a stipulation here that a maximum of 20 dogs be allowed outside at any time. It sounded like that wasn't necessarily what was intended, so I figured I should bring it up so that we can discuss that in the public forum.
Anyone else have any comments or questions?
Where did that?
Brian McGlone, please step forward.
That was Based on the last application
The
had that
last
condition.
sentence.
Okay.
If I heard the response to that comment, it's 20 dogs, sort of plus or minus a few.
I mean, you're talking maybe, and again, I can't say that, there's not going to be 50 dogs outside at one time. You might have 5 play groups of 5 dogs, but they are spread out over more area as well in here. We have more room, so,
What would you consider, if there was to be a maximum put on it, what would you personally consider to be a maximum that makes sense for your business at least?
I mean, probably, it would probably be 20. Probably no more than 25 because we have indoor space. So these dogs, even if we had all 60 kennels filled or 100 dogs in house, we cannot have 100 dogs outside for safety of dogs.
Sure.
So we are having small play groups of 5 to 10 dogs anyway. Whereas right now, we've got a play group of 40 or 50 dogs in one room. So small play groups of dogs versus large play groups, number one, helps with the noise. Number two, we have huge indoor areas that the dogs will spend predominantly most of their day.
Changes to 25.
Yeah.
So 25, I guess, would be
One
the
to
max.
see if hold back in.
I just wanna
You
make
getting all
An
this
extra
on
10 or
the
2.
voice, by the way?
Yes.
You got about 20 minutes to go.
Voice though, because you're not talking to the mic.
There, he's good.
We've got the information.
Any additional comments?
I was going to say a couple things.
Oh, sorry, Brian.
I guess comments or points. Just to kind of maybe remind everybody too, this project was previously approved going back almost 2 years. Unfortunately, when the previously approved project, the bigger project that was going to house 80-plus dogs, didn't fit their ultimate budget. We're back here because there was enough substantial change to the size of the building and the change of the site plan as it shrunk and got smaller. So I mean, I appreciate all the input, but we do have a previously approved project that, you know, got us to where we are. And then when it didn't fit their budget and they had to go back, I mean, they literally spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to go through the redesigns to get here for this use. And they did that, I mean, because they went through the whole process to get this dog use into our zoning regulations, and it went through all the public hearings that we had to do to amend the zoning code back again a couple years ago. So, I mean, I'm just kind of reinforcing how this fit into our regulations as part of this. You know, selfishly, I mean, in my role as economic development, this is a new business coming to town. You know, I mean, people sometimes joke we don't need an extra pizza shop or nail salon or something like that, although we love them all. But here we've got a new business, you know, totally new business, service business coming in to serve the dog community, which we have a large dog community. I'm not a dog owner, but it's evidenced around town with the dog park and everything else. You know, so we're going to be creating new jobs. There's going to be different tax revenue that's here from the open land that we had for a long period of time. I mean, it is a relatively remote site. I mean, that's like good news and bad news, I guess, if you have a business. But, you know, we're not on Route 1. We're not in the downtown area. It is an industrial zone. This is the last parcel that vacant that can be built on. And so they're in, an industrial zone. And we told them in our zoning code that this wasn't allowed use. So they proceeded ahead to do this. I mean, and I'm oversimplifying it when I'm saying, you know, most of their changes shrunk the size of it, fewer dogs. They removed some stone walls that there was some concern about the stone walls. So things like that were all changed to make this building continue to fit on the lot itself. And we've heard, you know, design reviews looked at it. In fact, one of their comments as we were leaving there was they actually liked this design better than they did the other one. They thought it looked better and more barn-like. I mean, that's more from an architectural perspective. And again, our health department, our fire department, all the other departments have been looking at it and saying, yep, you know, you make it, you make it, you make it. And so they've continued to proceed ahead. So, you know, on their behalf, I guess, you know, I feel that the building meets or exceeds our zoning requirements and should be seriously considered and approved.
Thank you. as you know, there's a requirement for a second public hearing, which can be waived. So I'd like to just get a sense from the commissioners as to whether or not they're comfortable with the application that's been presented, and whether or not they feel that an additional meeting is required. We got two that are pretty comfortable?
Brian just hit it all. It's a scaled-down project from something that's already approved.
Put it that way.
Showing your cards a little early there. So someone want to make a motion to waive the second public hearing?
I'll make the motion to waive the second.
I'll second it.
Great. Discussion? I think we're pretty comfortable with this one. Yep. All in favor of waiving second public hearing?
Aye.
Okay, someone will make a motion to close?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. Okay. Peter, do you want to change the tape, or you want to keep going? What's your preference?
You got 20 minutes.
Okay, let's keep going. So why don't we deal with the cams first? Okay. James and Joyce Glass, that's the pool. Everything seems to be pretty well in order.
I'll make a motion.
Please do.
Voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve a coastal area management application for James and Joyce Glass at 2 Guilford Point Drive, map 27, lot 7, as shown on an application dated 1/12/2019, and plans prepared by Harkin Engineering dated 1/11/2019, revised 1/30/2019. This application is approved with the following conditions: that staked hay bales be installed in addition to silt fence. 2, that the town of Guilford zoning enforcement officer shall be notified to inspect the sedimentation and erosion control measures prior to any site work. Soil erosion and sedimentation control measures shall be maintained until vegetation is established or suitable material is installed to the satisfaction of the zoning enforcement. 3, as noted on the coastal site plan prepared James and Joyce Glass, number 2 Guilford Point Drive, prepared by Harkin Engineering LLC, dated January 1st, 2019, last revised January 30th, 2019. No on-site stockpiling of soil is allowed. Number 4, all discharges from the swimming pool be discharged in accordance to the latest version of the CTDEP general permit for discharge of swimming pool wastewaters. This application is approved based on the finding that it is consistent with the coastal management policies of the state of Connecticut and conforms with the zoning code of the town of Guilford.
Second.
I will second your,
There you go. First to jump in. Discussion? I think it's pretty straightforward, well presented, good application.
yes.
Call the vote. All in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. Why don't we do the next cam, and we'll deal with the Metro Pooch. Lazarus, same thing. Any proposed motions? I think it's another
I'll
great
propose another
application.
motion. Voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve a coastal area management application for Mark Lazarus at 162 Daniel Avenue, map 10, lot 164, as shown on an application dated 1/11/2019, and plans prepared by Harkin Engineering dated 1/14/2019, revised 2/26/2019 by Philippe Campus Architect dated 1/4/2019. This application is approved with the following conditions. 1, the town of Guilford zoning enforcement officer should be notified to inspect the sedimentation and erosion control measures prior to any demolition or site construction. Soil stockpiles should be contained by silt fencing and/or hay bales. Soil erosion and sedimentation control measures shall be maintained until vegetation is established or suitable material is installed to the satisfaction of the zoning enforcement. 2, the site should be inspected daily to make sure that all construction debris has been properly disposed of in a covered dumpster. And 3, prior to any demolition or site work, a pre-construction meeting be held with the town's environmental planner, town engineer, and zoning enforcement officer. This application is approved based upon a finding that it conforms with the zoning code of the town and is consistent with the coastal management policies of the state of Connecticut.
I will second that.
Discussion? Yeah, pretty straightforward.
Yeah, good presentation.
So I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Five Bricks Properties, Metro Pooch.
Voted. Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve a special permit coastal area management application and site plan for Vibex Properties, Inc., Metro Pooch at 201 Soundview Road, map 42, lot 118-4.5 and 6 is shown on an application dated 1/15/2009 in the following. Coastal Site Plan, Metro Pooch dated 9/28/16 revised to 2/26/19, 5-sheet prepared by Thomas A. Stevens and Associates. Architectural Plans, 3 sheets dated 18 February 2019, prepared by Rahuis, Fredfeld and Associates. Landscape Plan, Metro Pooch dated 2/8/2019, revised 2/16/2019, prepared by TEC Landscape Design. The application is approved with the following conditions. 1, the Town of Guilford zoning enforcement officer shall be notified to inspect sedimentation erosion control measures. Prior to any site work, soil stockpiles should be contained by silt fencing and hay bales. Soil erosion and sedimentation control measures shall be maintained until vegetation is established or suitable materials installed to the satisfaction of the zoning enforcement. 2, the public access easement shall be constructed properly, signed prior to an issuance of a certificate of occupancy. 3, to assure the future compliance of stormwater management system in accordance to section 273-75F of the zoning code. A, the site plan should be updated to reflect the latest stormwater management operation and maintenance plan. B, an as-built drawing of the completed stormwater system prepared in accordance with section 273-75F stormwater management subsection 6 construction. C, the applicant shall file a maintenance covenant on the land records required by section 273-75F stormwater management subsection 7 maintenance covenants of the Town of Guilford zoning code. 4, the final architectural plans and landscape plans be reviewed by the design review committee. 5, all exterior lighting fixtures be full cutoff fixtures. 6, that prior to any building permits, lots 42-118-4, 42-118-5, and 42-118-6 be merged in proper documentation filed on the land records. 7, a maximum of 20 dogs will be allowed outside at any time.
Changing that to 25.
I stand corrected. The maximum of 25 dogs will be allowed outside at any time. This application is approved based on the finding that it conforms with the zoning code and is consistent with the coastal management policy of the state of Connecticut. Special permit is effective on March 1st, 2019, and upon filing with the town clerk.
Second that proposal.
Before you second it, add 2 things. One, the effective date would be March 8th.
Yep.
Also add a condition 8 that reads something like the following, that the sound levels and controls described in the original sound study from the previous approval and as updated in the memo from Vibra Sciences dated 2/2019 be adhered to.
So I'll amend my motion to include what just George said for the date of March 8th and condition number 8 as described.
I'll second that.
One more?
Oh, one more.
And that all required fire exits are outside of the fenced area, as per the fire marshal.
I think they're shown emphasis that the fire marshal had in our meetings.
What is it again?
Yeah, read that one more time. Is
That
number
the
9?
required fire exits are outside of the fenced play areas to get
If
away.
someone has a fire exit going in.
Exit into a gated area, it doesn't show.
That makes sense.
I will also amend it, so condition number 9 will read the way Aaron said per our fire marshal.
Now
The
I'll
fire
second.
exits
Fire exits outside of the plan.
outside of the play area.
Discussion?
Second.
Thank you, Jason.
Scale down the plan.
I mean, my only concern in doing it in one night is that because this is a special meeting, hopefully we're not missing any neighbors, but it's been posted and there's been signs out, so people have
We
had the
have not heard
opportunity.
from anybody. We got comments as far away as Union Street last time.
Right. I think the addition of the soundproof paneling on the outside is, again,
Scale down
Right.
number of.
so, that being said, I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
There we go. Have fun. Subdivision. Hold on, Peter, how we doing? How much? 10? You want to change it now? And then we'll just go right to the subdivision? Jeff, are you okay with that? That'll be quick. All right. No business will be conducted, especially with you. Yes. Thank you very much. Just officially saying we have conducted no business during the break, and we would now like to hear the application, John and Kendra Remington, 190 Peddlers Road, map 73, lot 13-9, zone R5, subdivision map amended to relocate the driveway along originally approved May 2018.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Jeffrey Beatty. I'm at 705 Boston Post Road here in Guilford. This commission approved a 3-lot subdivision for the applicants, John and Kendra Remington, in May of 2018. A neighbor across the street took an appeal of that decision to the Superior Court, and my clients, the Remingtons, have been in contact with their attorney and with the neighbors, and we've reached an accommodation that would resolve the appeal. That accommodation is that we move the location of the driveway along Peddlers Road from this approximate location where it was originally approved further west, so that it's not, it's further removed from the driveway of the neighbor across the street. The neighbor was also concerned with the potential for blasting within the area that the driveway is to be installed. Some of you may recall that that was a concern raised at the time of the original subdivision was considered by this commission. So my clients agreed to have test pits dug within the area of the proposed relocated driveway, which is what's before you tonight, to determine whether or not there was the potential for blasting. We're happy to report that no ledge was encountered during the test pits that were dug within that area, and so we're confident that the blasting will not be necessary for either the construction of the driveway or a drainage catch basin near the drainage galley near the driveway. So in keeping with that discovery and again continued discussion with the neighbor, the subdivision map was revised to incorporate a no blast zone in that portion of the area where that driveway will be built. So we're not requesting anything with regard to the configuration or reconfiguration of the lots. The areas all remain the same. The only thing that's changing is the location of this driveway, which moves a little bit further to the west along Peddlers Road. And I'll let Mr. Anderson describe why we weren't able to move further than we did.
Good evening. Todd Anderson from Anderson Engineering and Surveying Associates, 1054 Boston Post Road in Guilford. We originally had the driveway coming out right across the street from the adjacent neighbor. His driveway comes off right here. The original driveway was positioned right in here to best facilitate the sight lines coming out. It's a Peddlers Road, it's a very curvy road, and this was the best location for sight lines. When he had his appeal and his concerns, I looked at it and said, well, I could move it about 20 feet further west and still facilitate the sight lines that meet the codes for safety. Moving it any further this way would have facilitated having to clear out a large portion of the side of the road. Moving it any further this way would have facilitated having to clear out a large portion of land off the side of the road. This is about as far as we can go with it. So it's either where it was before or where we have it now. Other than that, we are not going to have the safe sight lines that are required. So this is where the driveway has to go to facilitate his concerns and facilitate public safety. So other than that, nothing has changed with the plans. Like Mr. Beatty has said, we added a no blast zone onto the plan. We added some drainage on the driveway to alleviate the neighbor's concerns of water washing down the driveway and going across the road into his property. And also with moving the driveway over, I was able to reconfigure the driveway, and it is actually at a less grade than the original proposed driveway. So all around, it's a much better plan that makes everybody happy.
And just so the commission's aware, we've been in contact with the neighbor throughout this entire process. They are agreeable to this proposal, So once this commission, assuming this commission approves this modification to the subdivision plan, what will happen is a settlement agreement will be signed by my clients, by the neighbors who are the appellants in the case, and then the action will be withdrawn from the Superior Court, so there won't be a judgment or any further expense to the town to defend against this appeal. So we're hopeful that the commission will approve this modification. My clients are in agreement with it. The appealing neighbors is in agreement with it. We've presented it to the town engineer. She's given her blessing to it, and as far as we're aware, there's no objections from any of the town staff. So, questions from commissioners? Why didn't we get this plan the first time? Just kidding.
Where the driveway was before, I had about 50 feet more in sight distance on the driveway in both directions.
Well, I'm glad that you guys...
And right now, I'm at the absolute minimum.
Right, well, I'm glad you guys figured something out of suing each other.
Would you please read it?
This is from Janet Plesiak, Town Engineer, dated February 5th, regarding 190 Peddlers Road. I have reviewed the submitted subdivision plan and site development plan for the above referenced property. The plan has been prepared to address my comments. I don't believe the catch basin in the driveway is necessary. However, it may be part of an agreement, and therefore I request the note that the town will not be responsible for its maintenance.
Which is on
Another letter from Kevin McGee dated February 22nd to Guilford Planning and Zoning. The applicant is proposing to update the approved subdivision map with a driveway relocation. The proposed plan shows a minimum of 2 street trees being removed to provide for the required driveway sightline. Any tree being removed within the town right-of-way requires a permit from the town tree warden, and a replacement of trees would need to be replanted out of the driveway sightline.
Well, both of the trees are on private property. Maybe about 2 inches of the big tree here is within the town right-of-way, but the bulk of the tree is on the private land. And the other tree is fully on private land.
Okay. So is that?
So
is that null and void?
I did not see that letter.
Would you like it?
I would.
So the majority of the trees.
I think it's more, should
I think
any
it's more
additional,
speculative. Yeah. I think Kevin's
anything
comment is
on
more speculative in terms of
town right
if the
of way.
tree.
Yeah, he doesn't say
Be subject
definitively
to
that it is, he just said if it is, then it has to be.
Right.
There's an if in there, so.
Yeah.
Any questions from the audience? Okay, then no questions.
I have discussed this on a number of occasions with Chuck Andrus, who of course represents you in this lawsuit, and he's confirmed what Jeff also explained about the settlement. So if this is approved, then they'll go to the formality of a settlement agreement. I guess the judge has to agree to it, but presumably the judge will if all parties agree, so.
Do we have a good motion?
Voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve a revision to the subdivision plan of John and Kendra Remington at 190 Peddlers Road, map 73, lot 3-19. Said revision to locate the driveway as shown on the site development plan Remington property dated April 2nd, 2018, revised to 1/30/2019, prepared by Anderson Engineering and Surveying Associates. This application is approved with the following conditions: that a note be added to the map indicating that the town is not responsible for the maintenance of the proposed catch basin in the driveway. 2, any tree being removed within the town right-of-way requires a permit from the town tree warden, and replacement trees would need to be planted out of the driveway sightline. This application is approved based upon a finding that it conforms with the zoning and subdivision codes of the town.
I'll second that.
Discussion? We're not going to get sued. That's good.
Yeah.
So we'll get them sued. We already got sued, so we're getting out of the suit.
Yeah.
Housekeeping, let's
Call that housekeeping. I think it's pretty good, so I'll call a vote. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Christopher Widmer, 376 State Street, map 74, lot 5, zone R5, subdivision, 4 lots. Yes, you're on. In the record.
Good evening. My name is Chris Widmer, and I represent Green Planet Company, a nonprofit housing developer here in Guilford. I'm from 94 State Street in Guilford. So, I'm here tonight to request a 4-lot subdivision of the property at 376 State Street. I've done a color map so you could sort of read it a little bit easier. This is State Street, and this is I-95. So it's that parcel that's sort of just to the north of 95.
Right across from the tree farm?
Correct, yeah. Currently...
Is there an existing house?
Yeah, there is. There's an existing house on the property. Essentially what we've done is split it into 4 lots, 3 of them in the sort of forward section. We kept the house on its own parcel with a barn and a garage also on that lot.
But the existing house will stay?
Correct.
Oh, will.
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually, it's a pretty house.
It's just dark, it's just really
yeah,
dark.
Needs some TLC. So we have a drive coming in. There's a body of water, actually a pond on the property with a stream that sort of feeds out to the south. And essentially, so these 2 lots meet all the criteria for lots in the R5 zone. And these will be developed sort of initially. The thought being that lot 4 in the back, which would be about a 9-acre parcel, we would come back before the commission to do perhaps some additional housing back there. Our plan is to do some cottage community in the back for ownership for affordable housing. So that's the proposal.
Terrific. Do we have to do the open space on this one?
Yes. We have open
So
space.
Chris, if you want to
yeah.
detail what you're proposing for
So
open space.
highlighted in green are the conservation areas that we've set aside. They will be on the recorded deed. Essentially, this sort of right-of-way, we have a 50-foot right-of-way that goes from State Street all the way back to Lot 4, which belongs to Lot 4. We had, let's see if I get that other. We have a.
So will the new lots on the south side share a common driveway with lot 4?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's essentially what this is. It's an easement that allows them to use that driveway. There will be a recorded document, which I gave to Aaron, as sort of a draft of it, that indicates the ownership of this, but also the maintenance schedule and how that's divided among the properties, so that it's...
Specifically asked about open space.
Oh, yeah.
The Inland Wetlands Commission recommended that I guess it's a vernal pool on the south side of the property, which they consider to be very special, have a conservation easement as an additional kind of layer of protection of that resource, and that would constitute the open space dedication that would otherwise be required or asked for. There's no land really to be set aside in ownership for any kind of reasonable open space. The idea of fee in lieu was discussed a little bit, but since the Wetlands Commission felt very strongly, I gather, on this issue of the easement, that was preferable to fee in lieu. As you know, we don't yet have a mandatory fee in lieu. We're also aware that this property, even though technically right now it's a 4-lot subdivision, could potentially be an affordable development on that Lot 4. That was perhaps part of the consideration as well. But mostly the open space dedication relates to the desire of the Wetlands Commission to have that easement.
Correct.
This vernal pool, it actually abuts 95?
It does, yeah. 95 actually sits up quite a bit higher, and then it
Yeah,
goes
right.
sort of right down in here.
Regulations regarding the number of homes that can be serviced by a single driveway?
Yeah, there are three.
Three, so if they'd have to get a variance if there were to be.
This would be a special. Lot 4 would be a special permit use if it becomes a if the property owner goes forward with the multifamily application, in which case it would be like a PRD, where essentially a town road would be built to it, although it wouldn't necessarily be owned by the town. It would be like Long Hill Farm. It would be a substantial road, not a private driveway, if it's a multifamily development. That's why the right-of-way is specified at 50 feet. It could be a town road. That's something that would be resolved if and when.
So it would be widened to those dashed lines?
Well, no.
That's
the right-of-way. The road would still be probably 22 feet. But in order to create a town road, you have to have 50 feet of right-of-way. So that's why this is set at 50 feet. Maybe Lot 4 never becomes a multifamily development. That's subject to down the road, in which case it would be like any other driveway. I think that's
right,
correct.
and Lot 1 has its own driveway access.
Right.
That's just north.
Right, that's right. So there's 3 lots served by this private driveway now.
Right.
And that if Lot 4 becomes something more substantial down the road, then we would resolve whether it would be a town road or some kind of private road.
Have anything in the file?
So you have, right, you do have the referral from the Inland Wetlands Commission. They have referred favorably with a few proposed conditions.
I'll grab the first one, and someone can take over. There's a letter here from the Inland Wetlands Commission. I'll read it into the record. Green Planet Co., 94 State Street, Guilford, Connecticut. R.E. Collin and Michael McKenzie, Green Planet, 376 State Street, map 74, lot 5, subdivision referral, developed property for residential use within 100-foot jurisdictional review zone. Dear Collin and Michael McKenzie, Green Planet Co., at its Inland Wetlands meeting on February 13, 2019, the Guilford Inland Wetlands Commission took the following actions. Voted the Guilford Inland Wetlands Commission refers favorably to the Planning and Zoning Commission the subdivision shown on the map titled Re-subdivision map of Great Hill Commons subdivision 376 State Street, title page sheet 1/4 dated 12/4/2018, site development plan sheet 3/4 dated 12/4/2018, and soils and notes sheet 4/4 prepared by Osprey Environmental Engineering LLC, and subdivision map of the property at number 376 State Street, Guilford, Connecticut, sheets 2/4 prepared by Franklin Surveys, dated December 7th, 2018, last revised February 1st, 2019, with the following recommendations to the Planning and Zoning Commission. 1, that a conservation easement be approved to protect the on-site wetlands, which include a vernal pool. That prior to issuance of a building permit, the conservation easement boundaries shall be permanently delineated by the setting of permanent 4x4 wooden or concrete posts. The posts shall be marked with signage indicating their conservation easement boundaries. The posts are to be located along the conservation easement as shown on the final plans at a maximum of 100-foot intervals and at turning locations. Number 2, development of lots 2, 3, and 4 require review by Inland Wetlands Commission. Number 3, recommended that any crossing of wetlands with the access to the road be full span bridge. Very truly yours, Kevin Clark, Chairman, Inland Wetlands. Do you have a copy of that? Would you like one?
Yeah.
Okay, I got it. Next.
There's also one from Kevin McGee.
Pardon me?
There's also one from Kevin McGee.
Yes, please.
Order from Kevin McGee, environmental planner, dated February 26, 2019. The applicant is proposing to divide a 15-acre lot into 4 lots. The applicant has completed the checklist to guide low-impact development, best management practices, and is utilizing several of the recommended practices. The proposed stormwater management systems for lots 2 and 3 consist of roof leaders discharging to subsurface infiltration systems. The plans for lots 4 do not show stormwater treatment for the proposed driveway, which slopes towards the wetlands. Stormwater management for the driveway area will be required to be submitted to the Inland Wetlands Commission as part of the regulated activity application. The plans for the project have sedimentation and erosion control procedures that are in compliance with 273-97B, subsection 6 of the zoning regulations. Clearing for driveway sightlines will require the removal of trees within the town right-of-way. The property contains a pond, inland wetlands, and a vernal pool. The Wetlands Commission recommended these areas be protected by a conservation easement. The Guilford Inland Wetlands Commission at its February 13, 2019 meeting voted to refer favorably the Great Hill Common Subdivision to the Planning and Zoning Commission with recommendations. A copy of the Inland Wetlands Commission approval letter has been submitted. Recommendations for conditions of approval. 1, the Town of Guilford zoning enforcement officer should be notified to inspect the sedimentation and erosion control measures prior to site work. Soil stockpiles should be contained by silt fencing and or hay bales. Soil erosion and sedimentation control measures shall be maintained until vegetation is established or suitable material is installed to the satisfaction of the zoning enforcement.
Mr. Chairman, we also have a note from Dennis Johnson, Health Director. Read it. This is for Christopher Widmer project at 376 State Street, map 74, lot 5. Preliminary soil tests conducted on the applicant's proposed 4-lot subdivision on January 14, 2019 reveal moderately permeable soils with evidence of shallow bedrock. Suitable areas for installation of both septic systems and private wells have been identified on each proposed lot. It is recommended that the applicant's proposed subdivision be approved with the following condition. 1, all septic systems shall be designed by a licensed professional engineer.
And our last letter would be from our town engineer, dated February 19th. I reviewed the submitted subdivision plan for the above referenced property. The subdivision map to be filed on the land record should include a note that this is a private driveway and the town of Guilford is not responsible for maintenance or plowing. The property owner should be required to establish an association prior to the sale of any lots for the properties dependent on the private driveway for access for future maintenance of the driveway. I'm concerned about the sight lines to the north from the proposed driveway as you enter State Street. It's unclear to me that they are adequate at this time. The property owner should provide a proposed plan to provide adequate sight lines for the driveway or demonstrate they are currently adequate. There is no profile for the driveway. This should be designed and submitted to ensure the driveway does not exceed maximum grade of 12% per the subdivision regulations. It's also necessary to perform the sight line analysis referred to previously. At minimum, the first 10 feet along the driveway intersecting State Street shall be paved. More may be necessary depending on the steepness of the driveway and the stormwater management plan in order to prevent gravel washout onto State Street. Stormwater management has not been addressed. A plan on how the stormwater will be managed for the first approximately 100 feet of the 22-foot wide driveway should be developed to prevent all stormwater from running out into State Street. Carefully grading of the proposed driveway and swale parallel to State Street may be adequate to manage the stormwater to the wetland to the south of the property. The subdivision plan shall include the installation of monuments as required per section 272-36 of the subdivision regulations. This should include monuments along State Street and proposed driveway right of way. And finally, the commission may require sidewalks along State Street since this is a subdivision is on a major collector road. The nearest sidewalks are more than 500 feet south of the property on State Street.
That sums it up.
All right.
I believe you answered those?
I did, yeah. Yeah, so we addressed Janice's comments, sort of took them one at a time. We spoke this morning, and I'm not sure she's had a chance to respond to what we talked about, but she seemed somewhat satisfied with our responses, so.
We have the updated plans in response to her comments. The issue of the sidewalk, I thought I think what we concluded was that, at least as I recall it, if and when Lot 4 is proposed to be more intensively developed, we might take up then the idea of some kind of pedestrian path from there out to State Street and then southbound, not a full-blown sidewalk, which would be quite an expensive proposition, but something that would facilitate pedestrian access to State Street and then to the center of town. But to require it as part of a 4-lot subdivision would be a bit onerous. I think that's...
So it's not our proposed motion?
No.
I am. I'd like to be able to connect this site to the sidewalk system somehow. And I think that ultimately, if we do develop Lot 4 and in the way we're thinking about 10 units back there. So it would be great to have a way for those people to walk to town.
They could run across 95.
We'll put a stoplight in.
Is there a motion?
Sure. Voted, what? George, yes.
Amendments to the motion as well, but go ahead.
Do you want to get,
Oh, you have more than what we have?
yes.
Oh, all right.
Oh, I have, yes.
More than the addition.
2 additional to that, yes.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Put that on the table, and then,
Okay.
I'll add them when you're.
yeah, okay.
Voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve the subdivision application for Michael and Conley McKenzie for property at 376 State Street, map 74, lot 5, as shown on the subdivision map of property at number 376 State Street, Guilford, Connecticut, sheet 25, dated 12/7/18, revised to 2/19/19, prepared by Franklin Surveys and Site Development Plans, entitled Great Hills Commons Subdivision, 376 State Street, Guilford, Connecticut, by Osprey Environmental Engineering, LLC, sheets 3 to 5, dated 12/4/18, revised to 2/21/19. This application is approved with the following conditions. 1, the Town of Guilford zoning enforcement officer should be notified to inspect the sedimentation and erosion control measures prior to site work. Soil stockpiles should be contained by silt fencing and hay bales. Soil erosion and sedimentation control measures shall be maintained until vegetation is established or suitable material is installed to the satisfaction of the zoning enforcement officer. 2, prior to any site work, the issuance of a building permit for lots 2, 3, and 4, an inland wetlands permit will be required. 3, any crossing of wetlands with access road be full span bridge. 4, any trees being removed for driveway sightlines be noticed by the town tree warden. 5, in order to prevent construction in the conservation easement area, I recommend the following conditions of approval. A, the language of the conservation easement shall be in accordance with the standard conservation easement document of the Town of Guilford. The terms of the conservation easement shall be made restrictive covenant running with the land, binding on the successors and the assignees. If a conservation easement is not approved by the town meeting, the applicant shall file a deed restriction with similar language. B, conservation easements filed in the town land records at the time of filing of the approved subdivision map. No building permit shall be issued and no site work to be conducted until a conservation area has been properly marked with iron pins and signage at no greater than 100-foot intervals in turning points. 6, as noted in section 272-24 of the subdivision regulations, a digitized copy of the final subdivision plan submitted to the commission in PDF format showing all the property lines. 7, installation of monuments along State Street and proposed driveway right-of-way as required per section 272-36 of the subdivision regulations prior to the issuance of any certificates of occupancy for individual lots. 8, limit access way on Lot 4 to 100 feet upland review line until permit for regulated activity by Inland Wetland Commission be obtained. Number 9, silt fence be installed along the side of proposed access way prior to construction. 10, gravel swale on south side of access way be installed prior to any development on lots 2 and 3.
All septic systems shall be designed by a licensed engineer. 12, note on map stating that this is a private road and the town of Guilford is not responsible for its maintenance or plowing, and an association shall be established prior to the sale of any lots for the properties dependent on the private driveway for access for the future maintenance of the driveway.
You okay with that? Great.
This application is approved based upon a finding that it conforms to the subdivision and zoning codes of the town of Guilford.
Thank you. Great discussion. Michael?
No discussion.
Okay. No?
Looks like a great plan.
I agree.
Yeah.
Call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Holy cats, that was a motion.
I think. Let's see, we've got site plan. Okay. The Alan D'Antonio, we're recommending that we table this for...
Yes, Mr. D'Antonio, his engineer is almost ready with a plan and is hoping to have that for next week. You have until March 20th meeting to take action on that.
Why don't we
So we'll table.
Why don't we table it till the
He might be ready
Next
next
week,
week.
yeah.
Great. Applications to be received, James Goodman, 86 Middle Road, map 80, lot 37, zone R3, special permit modification for the keeping of 15 additional pheasants. Set and receive public hearing date of March 20th. Okay, well, I guess we'll receive that. Did everyone have a chance to read the minutes?
Yes, I did.
So moved.
Oh, for the application to be received?
Hearing for
Schedule a
March
public hearing.
20th public hearing.
Okay.
Yeah, I said so moved, so.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, approval of the minutes, anyone read them? Substantially correct? Okay, make a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? With no further business, we will adjourn the Planning and Zoning Commission. Thank you.
You send everybody else home.
Yeah, it was seconded and voted on.